peeps, welcome back to my channel Planty Princess. My name is Ashley. Today we are going to be propagating a few Hoyas. Hoyas are relatively easy to propagate, at least in my experience. I think they all root pretty easily, pretty readily. Now, I can speak for a vast majority of Hoyas, at least when it comes to propagation, that they root very quickly. But of course you do have, and I do have one that it's not that it's hard to root. It's quite easy to root. It just roots on the slower side. But most Hoyas and most of the Hoyas that I have here today really do root pretty quickly. So when propagating Hoyas, aeroids, you need nodes. A lot of other plants you need nodes. Hoyas have nodes, but you do not need them to root a Hoya. Hoyas root along the entire stem, and as you see here with this one, there are a bunch of aerial roots already started going along the whole stem, and these will turn into feeder roots once I put them in a medium. So that is how these plants here root. The nodes are where the leaves and peduncles come out of. So again, you do not need a node to root a Hoya, which is, I think, very beneficial because you don't have to remove leaves, like remove bottom leaves if you're trying to propagate something and you only have one node available to root. You don't have to remove the lower leaves, so you don't have to, lose any leaves while propagating Hoyas, which is a big plus for me because, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, but I dread taking off leaves to root a plant. It makes me so sad, especially if they're healthy and beautiful leaves. So anyways, without any further ado, let's just jump right into the video because I have a good portion of Hoyas here to propagate. I'll go through, show you what I'm going to propagate today, and then we'll get started making some cuts. So to start off, we have this beautiful Hoya here. This is the Hoya Seligamiana. This one does get larger leaves. As you see, this leaf is a pretty large one here, but as they go up, they do tend and start to get a little larger, especially if you give them something to climb on. These are more elongated leaves with nice venations that run along the entire leaf. So we have the Hoya Seligamiana. I have a little Hoya Bordenii here that I want to propagate because she's getting kind of big. And I would love to fill the pot and make some additional plants. This one is another one, kind of like the Seligamiana, where it has more elongated leaves that come to a kind of point. The same venations running the long way across the leaves. And both of these plants here can get sun stressed if given enough light. I'm going to move them to my IKEA cabinet where I keep the Hoyas that I'm currently sun stressing, mostly because that light I have in there is perfect for that. I also want to make another Hoya Polyneura Splash. This one is just so gorgeous. It has a lot of splashing starting to develop, as you can see in the leaves here. It's a little bright. Let me get a better view for you guys because this is just a gorgeous plant. So you can see all the splashing going on, mostly on this newer one here. These were kind of older leaves and they didn't develop too much splash, but the newer ones are definitely starting to develop a lot of splash. And this is another one that I would love to one day just have a big, huge pot full of Hoya Polyneura Splash, and it would just be stunning. We'll move on. This one is one of my favorites. If you saw the unboxing, I mentioned how I was looking for this plant forever and only ever came across them from overseas. I finally found one that I was willing to get. I got a really nice size, which I was very grateful for. But this is the Hoya clemensiorum. They have really large leaves. If you see compared to my hand, that is nearly the whole length of my hand. The venations are just so pronounced, so stunning, so dark, so deep. This one, when it's sun stressed, can get a really nice maroon, deep, bright, vibrant red. It can also get an orange color. And it is just so gorgeous. So I'm going to literally chop this into pieces and every node is going to be a new plant. Next, we will move on to my Hoya Beliensis Splash. This one gets nice, large, almost heart-shaped leaves. It does get some splash in it. This one, it's kind of hard to tell, but in this newer leaf, you see how the splash is like this gray, almost like grayish purple color. And it does get more pronounced. It does have light venations. They're kind of hard to see, but they are there. This one is just another gorgeous plant. And with enough light, the leaves do get very splashy, very beautiful. This is my Hoya Caudata. Maybe the Sumatra form because it is very splashy. I love the razor edging. This plant is very long. It does have a decent amount of leaves, so I'm also going to chop this one up into bits and propagate anywhere that I can. This one is actually more of a thinner leafed Hoya, so I'm hoping, like, this leaf feels very flimsy. I just gave it some water a little bit ago, but this one I'm definitely going to be watering after I propagate. That way I can absorb some of that water and kind of get some water into those leaves. Now we have the Hoya Silvesiana. This one is a super thick leaf Hoya, really elongated, really thin leaves. They almost look like little green beans, or little pea pods or something like that. But this one's so cute. I really love it. Mine has actually like a lot of, this one is actually a nice leaf right here, but a lot of these have a lot of damage on them. So I'm hoping to propagate again. I'm going to chop this one into pieces, propagate, get some new plants going, and hopefully get a lot of nice, new, fresher, healthier leaves. So we're down to our last two. We have the Hoya Sweet Scent, which is another one that gets a lot of splashing. It's very gorgeous. I actually repotted this the other day, and I ended up cutting this off just because it was too long up here to continue. So, and I couldn't make it any taller because it's in my IKEA cabinet and the shelves were not tall enough to make it any taller. So I already started propagating this one, and I am going to propagate it a little bit more. And last but not least, this is also one of my favorites that I was really looking forward to kind of get some more of. Maybe put on my Lux Foliage shop at some point. This is the Hoya Tom Deo Splash. Very beautiful. It gets these nice, large, dark leaves with the venations running through it. Let's see if I can get a shadow so you can see the venations. A little bit. But it does get a lot of nice splashing on it. And you could kind of really see the venations in this one here since it's still a little bit of light. It's still a little lighter. And then we have a new leaf coming over here, which is just gorgeous. So this one I'm only going to propagate once. This is a fresh tendril still growing. What's neat about this one is the tendril is kind of like fuzzy and it feels really amazing. So I'm not going to be potting these up on camera just because I feel like it would take way too long, and you guys know how to do that. I just wanted to show you what I'm propagating, show you how I propagate, and we'll get right into it. We'll start off with the Seligamiana and the Bordenii since they're not on any trellises or poles. So I'm going to make my cuts pretty much, well, I'll start down at the base, and I'm literally going to cut it as close to the base as possible. There's actually a leaf right here, and I'm going to keep that leaf, so I'll make my cut literally right above that last leaf, as close to that leaf as I possibly can. So now this is the mother plant that I will just keep continuing growing. And then I have this with a lot of nice aerial roots, which is really good. They're really not going to benefit me much if I keep it this long because there's not too many down here. So maybe I'll cut this into twos, and then what will be nice is that the top half will already be partially rooted. So I'll make my cut right here. And then this one already has some aerial roots that are started that will already pick up some water, some nutrients, and help the plant continue to grow a little faster. Again, these root pretty readily, so I'm sure this one will be right behind the one that already has some aerial roots there. And actually what I will do for now until they start to develop roots is I'm just gonna actually stick them, since this plant is small, it's not too large, I'm just gonna stick them into the same pot to save some space and just to save some space. So now I want to make sure some of those aerial roots get down in there if possible, like I said, because they can start picking up some nutrients for the plants. But if not, that's all right. They will get some more roots down on the bottom half of the stem that is in the soil. So we have one down, many to go. Now this is a long one. Again, this is another one I'm just going to cut right at the base. Not going to hold this one up while I'm cutting it because it's just too long. But I am literally, and this one has another active tendril coming here. I'm going to leave that mostly because it doesn't have any leaves, but even if it did, I would still leave that continuing to grow and just cut the one here. So there we have that. I made the cut right here. You can see that it's fresh and healthy because it puts out that white pus when you cut a Hoya. Now this one, because it's so large, I'm going to give it its own pot. I'll probably make a couple cuts and stick as many into a pot as I possibly can. Probably use a 5-inch pot because I think if I did use a 5-inch pot, all of these would fit in there. So I'm just going to make a couple more cuts. And there we have it. So again, this one's already rooted for me. This one has tons of aerial roots everywhere. This would do great on a trellis because it would cling right onto there and continue to grow. So we have one cutting out of it, 2, 3, and 4. Fantastic. I gotta quick figure out which side was the bottom. I hate when that happens. All right, we'll figure that out later. So I know that's the bottom. I know this is the bottom. I think for the most part the leaves have been pointing down. What's kind of nice is either way the stem will root, but you still don't want to have it upside down because the growth point then will grow the opposite way. So we shall figure that out later. All right, let's move right on to this one. Kind of just gonna cut it while it's still attached and then I'll just slip it off. I'm gonna cut this one as close to the base as I can see because it's in the pot and I don't want to uproot it. So, and actually I may just leave this on here. That way it has support for this tendril yet, and then I have such a long stem to stick into a medium. It will root down here, which is fine. Actually, this one I will keep in the same spot because it has plenty of room. Look at that. Pot saving. And there's plenty of depth for the, and it actually still looks exactly the same. So we got that one out of the way. That was the Tom Deo. This is the Hoya Sweet Scent. So like I said, I already propagated one. I think I'm just going to make one cut on this one. Actually, that's really all I can make. I thought there was another leaf coming in on this, but there's not. That was the part I already propagated. And then again, I'm just going to slide this down, stick it into the same pot. There we have another one. Looks more full now that we have like more plant there. We have the same amount of plant, but it's in various spots. So this one I have an active growth point. This is a Solesiana. I have an active growth point right here. So this one already has another point coming out, which is awesome. This tip here is dead, so I'm actually just going to cut that off so it's not in the way. It's not really doing anything for me. As you can see, I cut it right here. There's no white pus coming out. So that's how you know that the stem is dead. It's no good. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to continue to grow. So it really doesn't make a difference. This I kind of have like squiggled all over the place. So I'm going to have to unwrap this to see what's going on. So I'm going to make a cut right here. And actually this is another stem, so I could cut this and have like a one leafer, but I think for now I'm just gonna leave that so it has a couple more leaves. And then normally I would probably just leave this, but because I really want and need some new growth on this plant, I'm gonna cut more, and then I'm just gonna trim a tiny bit of this stem off. All right. And again, same pot because we have plenty of room. And then I'll reattach this just to give it some support yet. And when you do attach these to a trellis, you want to make sure you're not attaching them too close to a node. That way you don't kind of like strangle or suffocate the node or block a growth point from coming out of it. So here's this one. I'm going to have to put those in a little bit more, but I need like one of those pokey thingies to kind of make a passageway for the stems to kind of sit down into. So we will do the Cadata. I kind of have it looping around and going up. I'm going to leave it attached because I'm actually going to leave that there. I think I'm only going to make one cut on this one, and we'll do it right here. So that way I still have that growing. And then again, we have another one here. So now we have two of those going on. This also has a new growth point here. This is another one that it's like sort of fuzzy, but not like fuzzy fuzzy. It's more of like a sticky, prickly fuzzy, I guess I could say. I know that probably doesn't make any sense. Another one I'm going to just cut right at the base. Super easy. I love propagating Hoyas because they are literally some of the easiest plants to propagate, as you see. And then we will stick this right down in here. Perfect. Hoya Beliensis Splash. And then I have two more. We'll do the Polynera. This is just so heavy. The leaves are so thick and so large. All right, so I was debating what I wanted to propagate off of this one here because I have two growth points going on. I have this new one that has all the splash, and then I have the old one that's still actively growing, but it's not as splashy, but it does have a little bit more leaves. I think because it has a little more leaves and it's older, I'm a little nervous to propagate such a fresh stem and such fresh leaves for fear that they may not take as well. So I actually am going to go ahead and propagate the older stem, which is this one here. And I'm going to propagate from right here is where I'll make my cut as close to the stem as possible. And this one I'm not going to stick back into the same pot because it's soil. I do not like to propagate in soil. My favorite means of propagation is leca. And now that I've been working with pon a little bit, I like pon as well. So I'll probably stick this into some pon and get this propagating. This is just such a gorgeous plant. I really love it. It literally is like a mermaid, or, you know, as I call it, a fishtail plant. So beautiful. Last but not least, we have our Hoya Clementiorum. This is my favorite Hoya. It's like the Hoya of all Hoyas. And I'm going to cut every single node, every single area that I can cut. So there will be one node on each plant with, you know, this one will have 2 leaves and then 1 and then 1. So we'll start right at the top. I just can't get over it. Just look how stunning this plant is. It is just gorgeous, literally gorgeous. And it even gets some splash, which is neat. So then we'll make one more cut right here. This one also has an aerial root coming out of it. It doesn't look the healthiest, so I actually think it's more dried up, if anything. But I just couldn't bring myself to cut it off because I was unsure. I figured it's not going to hurt to leave it there. So I'm just going to leave it there, see what happens. And it'll grow new roots, if anything. But again, check out this gorgeous leaf. This one's neat because it's like, and then it just kind of comes this way, which is kind of unique. I love getting plants that have like a really awesome, unique shaped leaf to it. The Saligamiana has that as well, actually. It was growing and kind of got caught on the fencing of the shelf, so it developed a little dent in these 2 leaves, but also kind of got that wonky shape to it, which I thought was awesome. All right, so and then we're left with this one here, and I will stick these 2 in this pot also. I'm going to leave this in here, honestly, because I will probably need to hold up those big leaves there. These ones are going to be so close to the bottom, but maybe this one will be too, actually. I think it'll be good. Yep. So I really don't need this. That looks so amazing, and wait till it like looks like this, but also has a big tendril of leaves just crawling up some type of trellis. So I hope this helped you, encouraged you to kind of go get some Hoyas and start propagating. I hope this gave you a little inspiration, gave you a little help to know how to propagate your Hoyas if you don't already. If you do, I hope you enjoyed just watching me propagate these plants. I like watching planty propagations. Sometimes I also get a little nervous watching them, but they're always a fun type of video to watch. Thank you guys again for joining me in another video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested in the content I provide. And as always, every plant's a princess. Bye!